Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel. Peter! Boom, 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 bam, 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 review stuff, and bam, another bam, 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 review stuff, and I am back for another review video. But today's is a little bit different, because today, I am asking for your help, and let me explain. This is not a food review video. I'm not reviewing pickle chips, or apple chips, or tomato chips, or mayonnaise chips. I'm not reviewing any of that today. Today, I need your help. I had mentioned on my vlog a couple days ago that I was thinking about coming back over here and doing some TV reviews. I talk a lot on my vlog channel about the TV shows that I'm watching. And, you know, I try not to say a whole lot about them over there because I don't like to ruin them for people. But I get so excited about talking about them because I love watching TV shows. In fact, I did a Q&A on my main channel the other day, and somebody asked me, they said, like, if you won, you know, $10 million in the lottery or something like that, what would you do? And honestly, I think I would just, I don't know, like, eat really good food and sit on my front porch and watch TV shows. I love to binge watch TV shows. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And actually, as of last night, because I keep a list of all the shows I'm watching, all the shows I want to watch, and then I keep a list of all the watched shows for that year. So as of last night, I have completed 51 shows for the year. And some of those are like a limited series. Some of those are like 3 seasons of a series. So it just kind of depends on the show. But I mentioned in my vlog, I said, you know, do you guys want me to go back and start doing reviews again? Because I was doing reviews over my review channel over here of TV shows for a while. And it was like every 2 or 3 days, I would do a review of a TV show. And I couldn't really tell from the response if people really enjoyed them or not. The thing is that the only way for me to really do them is for me to include spoilers, which means I have to talk about the show as if you've watched it as well. And I know that a lot of people don't like to watch spoiler reviews. I personally love watching spoiler reviews. I personally wait until after I've watched the show, and then I go and I watch the reviews where they've talked about the whole show, because it gets me kind of thinking, like, I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that, or, oh, I must have missed that, or something like that. So I enjoy watching the spoiler reviews, you know? In fact, when I watch reviews of movies or TV shows, and they kind of just give like a quick edit over what had happened, but they don't really tell any details of it. I'm like, okay, this was kind of boring. Like, I could have just watched the trailer. There was no reason for me to watch this review. And that's just my personal opinion about that. So I've been thinking about coming back over here and doing reviews of television shows and movies, because that is something that I have missed doing over here. I absolutely love watching television shows, television series, limited edition series, true crime documentaries. I love watching all of it. So what I need help from you guys on is, which shows would you like me to review? And I want to go back in here and I want to just read to you, I don't know, maybe the last 20 shows that I've watched, because it'll sound like it's taken me a long time to watch them, but actually, this has been like in the last week and a half, because I binge watch these shows. And currently, I am watching, I just started last night after I got done watching the last show that I finished. I started watching the last season, the final season of Manifest, that just came out on Netflix last night. I watched the first episode. So I have 9 episodes left to watch until it is over. And then I am also watching, if you guys would like to know what other shows I'm currently watching right now. Hold on, let me get into that note. TV shows I'm watching. I'm watching Fear the Walking Dead. I think I'm currently on season 4, and I'm trying to get through it. My plan was to get through it when the final season came out, which came out about 3 weeks ago, I think. But I'm not caught up yet because I'm in the most boring season of it all. My friend Tani Jean, she was like, just skip this season. It's not, you don't learn anything in this season. I said, I cannot skip a season. I can't skip an episode. Like, I have to know everything that's going on. So I'm kind of like slowly trying to get through the Fear the Walking Dead. And I love the show, but this season I'm just completely stuck on. So I kind of took like a little bit of a hiatus from that. I also took a hiatus from Below Deck Mediterranean. I'm currently halfway through the 5th season, and I was like binge watching the show like crazy. When we were in Florida the last time that we were in Florida, like, there was 2 days that it was raining there, and so we watched like, what do you call it, marathons of Below Deck Mediterranean on Bravo, I think it was. And so I got kind of hooked on it. I was like, I want to go back and I want to start watching it. And my plan was to go back, and I know Mediterranean's not the original show. The original is just called Below Deck, and there's like 5 different franchises now. There's like Below Deck Sailing, Below Deck this, Below Deck Adventures, whatever. And so my plan was, because I had already started watching Below Deck Mediterranean, to go back to season 1 of Below Deck Mediterranean, make it all the way through Mediterranean, and then go to the original Below Deck and start it with season 1. The thing is, by the time that I got to the 5th and a half season, and I already know that somebody's going to get fired in this season, which is somebody that I like, so I'm kind of like not really waiting. I don't really want to see that happen. I know she's not the most likable cast member, but I already know that that's going to happen. And my dad actually ruined it for me. He was like, wasn't it so sad when so-and-so got fired? I go, yeah, Dad, I'm not at that point yet, because my dad and my stepmom are like obsessed with Below Deck. My stepmom's like, I just feel like they're family. Like, I love to watch the show. But the thing is that every episode's kind of the same. There's like, you know, the people that come on and like stay on the ship, and then there's that whole kind of thing, and then there's always a fiasco in the kitchen, and then there's fighting, and then they all go out and they get like wildly drunk at the end of the episode. And so it's like every episode's kind of the same, and for a while I was just like glued to it. I couldn't stop watching it. But something happened with this season. I just started getting kind of bored, and so like I am also on hiatus from that show currently. And then I'm also watching High Desert, which is with Patricia Arquette, and it is half-an-hour episodes, and it's like kind of like a dark comedy about a woman, she and her husband, who is played by Matt Dillon, and I love Patricia Arquette, I just have to tell you. They, like in 2013, were arrested for being drug dealers, and it flashes forward, it's 10 years later, and her mother, who is played by Bernadette Peters, has passed away, and so her brother and sister want to like kick her out of the house that she was living in with her mother, and she's just a hilarious character, and she decides that she's going to become a private investigator. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Poker Face, mixed with something else, which Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne, which was one of my favorite shows I've watched this year. And so, like, I'm really into High Desert. I think it's great. It's a fantastic show if you're looking for something. It's a little different. It's you know, and I will say there's a lot of drug use in there, so just trigger warning for that. And then I'm also watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's one of the shows that my husband and I watch together. We have not watched this week, so don't ruin it for me. I'm also watching From Season 2, which is by the producers and the writers, I believe, of Lost, which was one of my favorite TV shows of life. And the main character is one of the characters that was in Lost. And it's about these people that they go to this town, and then they can't get out of this town. And they don't know, like, what's going on. And then at night, there's all these like spirits that come out, and they try to kill these people and get into their house, and they have to hang these medallions on the door and stuff like that. It's very scary. My friend Tanya, she's like, I can't even watch it unless my husband's in the house because I get so terrified. It's really, really good. So I'm on season 2 of that. I'm all caught up. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm also watching RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars. That's another show that my husband and I watch, and we'll probably watch that tonight. And like I said, Manifest. I started that last night. So what I need help with you guys on is I need to know what shows you would like me to review and do spoiler reviews, okay? Which means I'm going to come in and I'm going to talk about everything that happens in the show, my opinion about it, on and on and on, okay? And like, we don't have to agree on our opinions of shows. There's some shows I love, there's some shows I didn't, there's some shows I thought like the storyline was okay, sometimes I thought it was corny. Like, for example, like Manifest, I think is very corny, but for some reason I am so hooked to these characters and the storyline, I have to find out what's gonna happen, and so like I'm in love with this show. But anyway, so I just wanted to go through some of the shows that I have finished recently, and like the last 10 or 20, and let you guys decide which ones you'd like me to do reviews on, okay? The last show that I finished, and I know that a lot of people are going to be like, Peter, please talk about the show, is The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. I just finished it last night. It's 6 episodes. You can watch it on ID channel. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on HBO Max. I watched it on, well, I guess it's called just Max now. I watched it on Max because it didn't have commercials in it, and it was just like the 6 episodes were in a row. Other places, it's kind of a little confusing. So if you don't know what it's about, and I don't want to give too much away because this isn't the spoiler review, but it's about this family that lived in Westfield, Indiana, which is literally about 20 minutes from me, and incidentally, they lived in the exact same neighborhood that my mother-in-law lives in, which is absolutely crazy. And I have to tell you, there were about 3 or 4 different instances watching this documentary. There's somebody in this show that I used to work with, and I was like, this is absolutely crazy, like how much, like I didn't know about this case at all. Like literally people were texting me and telling me you gotta watch this show, and I had never heard of this girl. I didn't know anything about this case, and it literally happened 15 or 20 minutes up the road from me, like in my mother-in-law's neighborhood. And there were people that are in the documentary that like I know personally, and I was like, this is so crazy, right? And so But I finished watching it. So if you don't know what it's about this husband and wife that lived in Westfield, Indiana. They were pretty successful. He says in there that they lived in a 5,000 square foot McMansion, and I'm like, my mother-in-law's neighborhood is very nice. It's very cozy and homey and stuff like that. I wouldn't describe it as 5,000 square foot McMansions. So I knew right out of the gate that this guy was a liar straight from the pit of hell. But anyway, but it's so weird because like she has they show the lake that's like right behind her house and the playground that like my nephews played on and stuff like that. It's so bizarre. So anyway, but if you don't know what it's about this couple, and they had 3 kids, 6, 9, and 12, and 3 boys, and they decided to adopt this girl that's special needs, and so they adopt her, and then like all hell ensues, and you don't really know who to believe. You don't know if you should believe her or if you should believe the parents, but it gets crazier and crazier as the story goes on. And the thing that's interesting about it is that there's all these different perspectives, like from neighbors and friends and things like that. So like even up till the very end of the show, you kind of really don't know what to believe. Apparently, my friend just texted me and she was like, they're putting out another episode because she knows some of the people that are involved in it too. And she was like, they're supposedly putting out another episode, like a follow-up of what happened, because it goes up until like earlier this year. Like it follows up with the court case of earlier this year. So it does give some conclusive like ending to it, except it doesn't really tell where Natalia Grace is today, which I think she probably wants to keep her anonymity a little bit, so I understand that. But anyway, if you guys want me to do a review of that, I could most definitely do a review. I have a lot to say about that show. Before that, I finished Saint X, which was also an HBO Max or Max. And I had read this book several years ago. It was by Alexis Shaitkin, I think, and I had picked it as a pick for my book club called Peter's Book Club. And I remember not just being completely thrown down with the book, and thinking the book was not what I thought it was going to be. And it's about a family that goes to an island in the Caribbean for vacation. The oldest daughter is a freshman at Princeton. The youngest daughter is 7 years old, and then it's the parents. And on the last night of their vacation, the oldest daughter is murdered, allegedly. And so it flashes back and forth between the time that they're at the resort and the youngest daughter trying to figure out, like 20 years later, what happened to her sister. And it is, I have to just tell you, like, I called my cousin and I was like, have you like read this book? And she like looked on her Audible and she's like, I didn't finish it. I was like an hour and a half out and I didn't finish it. I must not have liked it. And I was like, yeah, I don't remember liking this book either, but I can tell you, like, right out of the gate watching the show, I was completely just taken with it. I was so blown away. I thought it was so fantastically done. And my friend Tanya and I were watching at the same time, and I called her, and I said, when I finished it, and I said, I'm like literally ugly crying. Like, this is so beautifully done. The show was so fantastic. It like puts the book to shame, in all honesty. And it's very rare that I say that a TV show or a movie is better than the book. But I was just absolutely blown away, and I thought it was just beautifully done, and it was just so sad, the ending, and it just was like, but it just was filmed so beautifully, and I just was like sitting there sobbing watching the end of it. So that's another show that I can review. Bama Rush, which was also on Max, which was about the Alabama, it was a documentary about an hour and a half about the Alabama rush for sororities. For those of you that don't know, that don't watch my other channels, okay? I come from a very heavy Greek family. My dad was a Fiji at IU. My mother was a Pi Phi. Pi Phi, Pi Phi, Pi Beta Phi. I'll be a Pi Phi all my life until the day I die. So anyway, I was very interested in watching this documentary, especially since I had watched all the TikToks of Bama Rush in 2021. This documentary really doesn't have anything to do with that, and I will tell you it's a total waste of time. I thought it was a boring documentary. I think what happened was they went into it with one idea, and then they started getting threatened. The production team started getting threatened by people on campus and all this kind of stuff, and so they had to go in a different direction, and it was not fully realized at all. In fact, I was kind of really surprised they even threw it up on Max. Like, it was not a fully realized documentary. It was poorly done at best. Love and Death, which is the Candy Montgomery story, which I had watched Candy with Jessica Biel, and I started watching Love and Death, and I got like one episode into it, and I was like, even on my vlog, I was like, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to finish watching this. It was with Elizabeth Olsen, the younger Olsen sister of the twins, and I just was like, there's something so different about this from Candy. I loved Candy with Jessica Biel. If you guys don't know what the story is about, it's about a very religious friend group of families. They all go to the same church, and Candy Montgomery kills her best friend. And so you see all that happen, and they kind of explain it. I got into like the second or third episode of the show, and I was just like completely in it to win it. Like, it was so fantastic, and I was like, okay, I'm like in this show. I'm going to continue to watch it. It was so good, and I watched the whole thing, and even up to the very last minute, it is so well done. And I have to tell you, I think Love and Death is 10 times better than Candy. They're different shows in that they depict what they believe really happened in different ways. And so it's like the telling of the story is very different. Love and Death goes into extremely more detail than Candy ever wanted to go into. It talks a lot about the affair that occurred between Candy Montgomery and the other woman's husband. And it goes in and it talks about all the details of the court trial. And I mean, it goes into really, like, it goes in depth into detail. So I would, if you're going to watch one or the other, and I think you can watch both of them and not get bored with it. I thought Jessica Biel did a fantastic job as well, but I thought Elizabeth Olsen did a better job. They're both of them, you could watch them back to back and not get bored with it, but I will say that Love and Death is the more detailed of the both of them. And then I just finished Yellow Jacket Season 2. I don't really want to get into a whole lot of this because a lot of people are asking me what I think about this, so I do kind of want to say this for a review. I felt like they built up the climax and waited till the final episode, which the final episode was fantastic, but whatever. Then I watched the first season of The Secret of the Skinwalker Ranch. I was so bored, I don't even know why I continue to watch it. Oh, I'm also watching Grace and Frankie right now. I'm finishing the final season of Grace and Frankie. Then I watched this documentary on Tubi that my friend recommended to me. It was a true crime documentary called Village of the Damned. It was fantastic. It was about this town in New York City called Dryden, New York. And like from 1989 to 1999, they had like 10 murders that occurred. And so they were talking about how this town is like supposedly damned and all this kind of stuff, or cursed. And it was so well done. I was really surprised I'd never heard of this documentary before. And then I finished The Last Thing He Told Me on Apple TV, which was so good, with Jennifer Garner. I had read the book several years ago, and by Laura Dave, and the show was fantastic. It was everything I wanted it to be, and so if you're looking for a really, really good show, the whole thing is out on Apple TV, The Last Thing He Told Me. It's about a woman who is remarried, and she's a stepdaughter that doesn't really like her, and on the very first episode, her husband goes, like, missing, like, he goes on the run and leaves them a bunch of cash, and she's trying to figure out why, and she's trying to figure out the history of, like, why he's running and all this kind of stuff. It's very, very good. It's a fantastic thriller. Then I watched Goodnight Sugar Babe, which you can actually watch on YouTube for free. It is probably one of the most poorly done documentaries that I've ever watched in my entire life. I mean, it looks like an amateur school project, but it is such a fantastic documentary. It is a story that really needs to be told. And there's a whole group called Voices for Vera on there about this woman that was horribly, horribly killed and just brutally abused before she was killed. And it's a really important documentary, I think, and it's called Goodnight Sugar Babe, and it's on HBO, or it's on, well, I bought it, actually, because I couldn't find it anywhere, so I rented it on, I think, Amazon or something like that for $3.99, but you can watch it on YouTube for free. I watched the Anna Nicole Smith documentary. I thought it was fantastic. I watched The Imposter, the documentary, because my friend had recommended it to me. And I got into it. This is all the shows I've watched, like, in the last week. And I got into it, and I was like, I was like halfway through, and I was like, I think I watched this before. And then he said something, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely watched this before, but I couldn't remember how it ended. It's about a guy that he claims that he's this kid that's been missing from San Antonio, Texas, and he lives in Spain. And he's basically a con that takes on the identity of missing kids. It's so sick. I mean, it's a true crime documentary. It really happened. And he's like married and has kids today. I can't even believe that this man is like free. I mean, after everything he did. But the show goes so much deeper than that. It's really, really scary. And then I watched Rich Hill, which was a documentary on Tubi. I'm like obsessed with Tubi because everything's free over there. And it was about 3 kids that grew up like in poverty. One of my favorite documentaries of life is this documentary I watched, God, like 20 years ago, called Stevie. And it was about a kid that had like a big brother and was in the foster care system. And so the big brother comes back like 20 years later and like interviews him to see like where his life has turned out. It reminded me a lot of that. It was like these kids that had just like, these really like horrible lives related to poverty, but then they kind of tried to rise out of it. And it was good. It was a good documentary. Okay. And then I finished Missing, Dead or Alive. Oh, I also watched Missing the movie on Netflix. And then I watched Searching. And then I watched Run, which are all by the same writer. I'm blown away by those movies, you guys. Okay, Missing, Searching, and Run are fantastic. I think Missing is the best of all of them, but you don't have to watch them in any certain order. They're so well done. Missing, Dead or Alive was, it's on Netflix. It is a true crime documentary series. I think it's 4 parts about missing people in North Carolina, and it follows like this police unit. It is so good. It is so good. So there's that one. And then 3 Identical Strangers, which were about these triplets that were separated at birth. It was a documentary that I watched. It was okay. It was good. And then Queen Charlotte, which is probably my favorite show that I've watched so far this year. Below Deck Season 4, Below Deck Season 3, Below Deck Season 2, Below Deck Season 1, I Love You, Now Die, Ultimate Girls Trip Thailand. I'll just read through all my shows and you guys tell me what you think, okay? Dope Sick, The Lady in the Dale, No One Saw a Thing, The Cheshire Murders, Mind Over Murder, Cruel Summer, School Spirits, Leanne Morgan, I'm Every Woman. That was like a stand-up comedy show on Netflix. The Plane That Disappeared, American Manhunt, The Boston Marathon Bombing, RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15, Single Drunk Female, Alaska Daily, Dear Edward, Truth Be Told Season 3, Your Honor, The Last of Us Season 1, Poker Face Season 1, because it got renewed, thank God, La Brea, Stolen Youth, The Murdoch Murders on Netflix. I've watched all the documentaries about that. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Amber, The Girl Behind the Alert, Little Fires Everywhere, Truth Be Told Seasons 1 and 2, 9 Perfect Strangers, The Price of Glee, the documentary, it was horrible. The Traitors, which is on Peacock, and it is so good. It's like one of my favorite reality shows of life. The Surreal Life, and Welcome to Chippendales. So those are all the shows that I have watched this year so far. If any of those are shows that you would like me to review, please let me know in the comment section below. If there are shows that you would like me to watch that you're like, Peter, you have to watch this and review this, I'm constantly looking for shows, so please put it in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.